Welcome, everybody. We're excited to be here with you. Mark here and Tracy. We are just going to have a good time chatting to get started. And we are wanting to make this time a power pack time with everybody that's with us to really maximize on our time coming in. So please say hello, what city you're coming from, and what church you're coming from, if that's applicable also. Tracy, where are you coming from?
Toronto, Canada.
Oh, we got some Canadians in the house. Do you think Canada's finally going to break through in the Stanley Cup this year?
I don't know. I haven't been following, but all my friends are pretty mad about the game.
Aaron, good to see you from Summit in DC. And Nakisha, I hope I said that right. Hope City Church in Savannah, Georgia. It sounds wonderful. I'm wondering if it's really hot there yet, but it's great to have you here. Nicole from Church on the Rock. Chris from Moorestown, Tennessee. Fantastic. We've got Atlanta in the house. David, Chris, Presence Church, San Jose. You guys are about to launch. We're cheering you on. Going to be a great church in the San Jose area. We got Southern California here. Life Point, Virginia. Hey, Kendall. Good to meet you. Hector. I'm guessing that's your name. Hector, where are you from? Oh, we got Big Bear, California. That sounds like a wonderful place to be right now. As people are mentioning in the chat, I'll introduce myself real briefly. I can actually talk rather than chat, and then Tracy, yourself also. I'm coming to you from the wonderful Pacific Northwest. Anybody from the Pacific Northwest knows this is a time where we brag about why we get to live here, because we can't brag for about 7 months of the year. So we like to take it all in. It's beautiful, a nice soft 75 degrees, sunny, lake, green. It's beautiful. And I'm privileged to hang out with you. Been pastoring for 23 years and also partnered up with Overflow and just love talking church. Tracy, why don't you introduce yourself also?
Yeah, and I am based in Toronto, Canada. All of you know it's really cold. It's still pretty cold now. We have only 4 months of summer, so I definitely cherish those times. And I am the Charity Success Manager at Wilfora. I'm really excited to be part of the workshop. I'm really passionate about raising awareness around estate planning and legacy giving, because it's one of the most powerful ways people can protect their loved ones and support their causes. So through my work, I have had the privilege of helping charities, churches, nonprofits raise millions of dollars in legacy giving. So I am very excited to share all that with you today.
And Tracy, you are newly married also, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your family, pets, stuffed animals, any of it.
Yeah. I got married last year. My husband and I have a dog.
But why don't you introduce one of our guests also that's joining us, really family.
Yeah, so David will also be featuring a live interview with David Metter. He's the executive director of legacy giving at 12 Stone Church. And we just want to share with you his insight on how churches like 12 Stone, one of the most influential churches in Atlanta, are already leading the way in this space. So we will have hoping that you will learn a lot from him and share a lot of experience with you guys.
That's awesome. Speaking of David, we're going to have a really power-packed time. Tracy, you want to go over real quick the agenda for our time? We want to capitalize on your precious time that you all are spending with us. So thank you again for joining us. But yeah, why don't you cover what our agenda is for the moment so you guys can all sit on the edge of your seats while we hang out.
Yeah. So in today's workshop, you'll hear from Mark on how churches can grow their weekly giving, and I will be walking you through how legacy giving through simple estate planning can become a powerful part of your church's long-term financial health. So we'll spend about 20 minutes on that, and then we'll have a 10-minute conversation with David Metter, who'll share why and how he has already implemented these tools for their church. You also see how these strategies can be put into action. We'll share a short demo with you, and we'll leave some time at the end for Q&A.
Yeah, and speaking of Q&A, you can absolutely pop in some questions. We might not get to them right at that moment, but I'd encourage you to, as our team is putting in there, put questions as we're talking about different elements, and we will make time at the end to get to those. So bring those questions in while they're fresh in your mind would be extremely helpful. But why don't we jump in? And today, what I'd love to talk about, because really what we want to add a lot of value to the time that you're all spending with us. And our hope is just to talk from the seat that we get to sit in, talking with a lot of you all incredible pastors and leaders on just what we're learning, what we're seeing, because our goal is to unlock generosity in your church and organization. And I want to start first with the research that is the problem we're trying to solve, and really trends that are happening in the world around us. So you see a few stats that I want to go over right in front of us. But the first one is this. Now, I'm warning you, you're already seeing them. Many of these are very not exciting. They're slightly depressing. Some of them might actually put a little bit of a note on what you're experiencing in your church or your organization. And we want to talk a little bit about how we can address those things. So first, among evangelical donors to church, the average amount given over the past 12 months is down 15%. That's wild to think about. So what I've found is churches that are growing, their giving is not growing at the rate of their attendance. And churches that are not growing at the present time are a little bit crammed for cash. They're in a difficult space where God's put a big vision, an incredible mission in their heart, but they're limited by something simple called money. And that's why we want to be intentional about this. Second, this is a wild stat. Christians are giving 2.5% of their income. During the Great Depression, they gave 3.3%. So it's not just economy. Like, obviously, when the world was in our most modern history, the lowest part in economic strength being the Great Depression, people were giving at a higher percentage than they're giving today. Only 3 to 5% of Americans who give to their local church do so through regular tithing. So, and the interesting thing I found, it's not because people don't know the definition of the tithe. It's not information that necessarily unlocks people giving generosity. It's connected to the heart, biblical teaching, and understanding how they can do it, which is what I want to talk to you a little bit more. 17% of American families have reduced the amount that they give to their local church. Are you getting sad? Aren't you glad that you joined this webinar? Wow, this is really uplifting. The point here is that what you may be experiencing, and maybe you're not experiencing this, and that is what's incredible. I bet you're probably implying some of the principles we're going to talk about. The last two I want to talk about here is 7% of churchgoers have dropped their regular giving by 20% or more. And there's lots of different factors on why. And here's one of them that I want to end on. 8 out of 10 people who give to churches have 0 credit card debt. So they hear a great message on Sunday where they're talking about giving, and we're talking about how important it is to trust God with your finances. And that starts with believing God as you give 10%. Wouldn't you rather live on 90% in God's hands rather than 100% in your hands? But the problem is most of the people that say, yes, I'd love that, but I'm actually living at 110%, or I'm living at 120%. So let's look here briefly at what the reason why people aren't giving. Tracy, if you want to hand it to the next slide here. So Pastor Chris Hodges says, people don't give because they're stingy. They don't give because they're strapped. So here is what's the reality of the world we're living in. Number one, there's a lack of trust. The state of the world, the factors are the state of the world and also church hurt. There's people that have joined our church or your church, and they came, maybe they had a bad experience in another community. And it's a big deal they're even showing up to church, but trusting the church with their money is a whole nother leap. The second one is lack of knowledge or faith. They haven't been taught. Forbes came out to say that, as maybe you know, the largest transfer of wealth that we're going to see probably within multiple hundreds of years, both the past and in the future, the largest transfer of wealth is going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years from baby boomers to Gen Z. The reality is baby boomers in general, because of the season of life and culture, we're taught to tithe, taught to give. And many of our churches are functioning off of those givers. What's going to happen when that money is transferred to Gen Z? Forbes says that the number one thing that is actually going to help Gen Z spend their money correct, they're not talking about giving, is financial literacy, is helping equip them on how to handle their money. So I'd like to propose that as biblical generosity literacy. How important it is that we educate the next generation on giving, because it's not just based on people that were taught how to give 30 years ago. The final one is this: a lack of resources. We all know the cost of living has increased wildly. I mean, even just the last 5 years, it's like at a zero. I mean, I used to take my family of 5 out to dinner, and we could maybe do it, for $50. I'm talking on the West Coast. I mean, you're talking on average $80 to $90 now to take a family of 5 out to dinner. This is just in a few years. So people are crammed more. It's more difficult than ever before. And here's the reality, Tracy, if you want to go to the next slide. Pastors aren't the best at educating people or asking people for anything. The reason why pastors got into the ministry, if you look here, this is a study by Barna Institute, is the vast majority of why pastors got in the ministry is because they want to preach and teach. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what Matthew 28 calls us to do, is to share the gospel, to go out into the world and make disciples. And then you can see all the different reasons why people got into ministry. What you will see and what you won't see is there's nothing on this list that speaks to asking people to give their money. I haven't met a pastor yet that's like, the reason why I want to get in ministry is because I just love asking people for money. We as pastors, we love to give. We love to serve. We love to invest in other people. And so going to a place where we're going, hey, you should step out in faith and give your money, can be clunky. It can be complicated. It can be difficult, which only compounds the problem. So I want to end on this, which is, how do we create a culture of generosity? And I want to encourage you to think within your context of ways you can apply these principles. If you want to go to the next slide, of how we can create a culture of generosity. The secret to developing new donors and increasing the generosity level in your church is, number one, teach what the Bible has to say about money, the tithe, and generosity. I know this is really like a simple thought, but I want you to know that a lot of us struggle with this. I talk to a lot of you weekly, and I'd probably say it's about 50% of pastors that will vulnerably say to me, I have a difficult time talking about money, or I'm waiting to talk about money. I'm still building trust with the people if they're a new pastor, a younger pastor. Traditionally, it's the younger pastors that are dragging their feet a bit more. And my encouragement is this: Pastor Rick Warren said, you'll never build a thriving, growing church unless you ask unashamedly people to give of their time and their money. That's the only way we'll build a growing, thriving church. And so we've got to get back to the basics of just teaching what the Bible says about money, the tithe, and generosity. Number two, bring other voices into the conversation. Not just you as a pastor, but think about objective voices that can also rally around the same message and be champions for the thing that you are trying to build. Financial advisors, trusted business people, neutral voices. That way it takes the subjectivity out of, I'm giving to a church which goes to a pastor who's asking me for money. Rather, it gets back to the objectivity of the principles of the scriptures and just good financial stewardship on how we can help unlock generosity in God's people to propel the local church forward. That's what we're all about. And number three is teach and train your people good financial literacy. So you'll see the three little segments. If we put these three legs of the stool together, I believe, and we are seeing generous cultures grow. Not the trends that we're seeing at the beginning of this presentation, but bucking those trends and seeing incredible growth in the culture of generosity in your community, in your church, because of using these three areas. So I hope this helps. We'll take some more time to talk about solutions and how we can do this and how we can support you. But I'm believing that the culture of generosity can grow just by simply educating, by bringing in great voices, teaching the Bible, and teaching good financial literacy. Tracy now is going to jump in and talk about other ways creatively that we can help raise the water level of giving to your church. I'll hand it over to you, Tracy.
Thank you so much, Mark. And I love that you touch on, you just have to talk about it and educate people on this. So when we talk about unlocking generosity or giving, I want to touch on the most overlooked and part of one is actually legacy giving. So it's not really a new idea, but for many churches, it's a conversation that hasn't started yet. And here are some of the questions that I love for all of us to reflect on as we move into this conversation. Legacy giving, maybe you've heard someone call it plan giving or bequest in a will, isn't just a fundraising tactic. It's a way for your members to express their values, their faith, and their heart for the church, even after they're no longer here. So churches really have a unique opportunity to initiate and provide guidance on these conversations, to be part of your people's future. And your members want you to be part of their future to help them plan better for their future. Okay, so I want to start off by looking at what's happening across the US when it comes to estate planning and bequests, because once you see the numbers, it's easier to envision the kind of generosity that we're unlocking here. And Mark already mentioned we're in the midst of the largest wealth transfer. An estimated $84 trillion will be passed from boomers to their children, churches, and charities by 2045. And we get that most church leaders are more focused on this year's budget, but imagine that even a small fraction of your congregation, including your church in their will, the impact is a lot greater than decades of weekly giving. So these gifts can really shape your financial future for the next 10, 20, or even 50 years. The second stat here I want to share is the biggest challenge. Only 6% of Americans actually include a gift in their will, which is a lot lower than other Western countries. What we see in Australia, UK, Europe, or Canada is that the number over there is above 10%. And the reason is not a lack of generosity. People want to give, but they just don't know that this is an option for them. And they don't know there's tax benefit that comes with it as well. Churches are not talking about it. Maybe in a charity space, if they're not talking about it, people just don't know this is an option. So imagine if we can increase 6% just by 2% to 8%, we're actually unlocking $1.7 trillion here. Charities and churches that begin this conversation can really be part of this movement. The third stat here I want to share is the average value of a bequest in the US is actually $46,000. So if you can just multiply that by 5 members of your congregation, even just 5 members who leave that gift in their will, you're looking at almost $250,000 from people who simply and ready to leave something meaningful behind. So the biggest question is, why is even with our generous nature and our desire to leave a lasting impact, a shocking high 72% of Americans do not have a will? Why? And this is really because no one is helping them see the value of having a will. You're already doing an incredible work stewarding your congregation, So bring estate planning and legacy giving into the conversation is really just an extension of your mission. Okay, so 72% of Americans I just shared do not have a will. That means most of your congregation likely doesn't have one either. And as church leaders, this represents a unique opportunity, not just talk about generosity, but to guide your members in planning well and be part of their future. Why does having a will matter? For many families in your church, people that I talk to, especially those who have children, I'm going to have a kid soon. So I'm already thinking about this with my husband, is because I know the importance of having a will, right? So there's often an assumption that if something were to happen to you, if you pass suddenly, your parent or sibling would step in and to take care of your children. But that is actually not the case. If you do not have a will, you don't get to decide on that. The court will actually appoint someone on your behalf. So creating a will is the only way to ensure that your wishes are honored and your loved ones are protected in the future. But it's not just, I always describe a will not just a legal decision. A will is also a reflection of someone's faith, value, and purpose when they're alive. And I think that's when churches or charities, most people who are afraid to talk about it because they think it's an end of life planning, but it's not really that. It's a representation of what they care about when they're living on this earth, right? It's one of the most meaningful way people can say, this is what I believe in, and this is what I want to see carried forward for generations to come. Oops, sorry, I skipped a slide. Okay, so why don't more people have a will? And these are the three biggest barriers that we hear. Number one, too complex. They don't know where to start, and it feels really overwhelming. Too expensive. Most of the people assume that they need to see a lawyer, need to work with a state lawyer to write a will. And right now, it can cost between $3,000 to $5,000 for a basic will. So imagine if you have a partner, you want to create a couple's will, married will, that would be a lot more costly. Number three, too time consuming. I know life is really busy. Everyone just thinks I'll deal with it later. And it's most oftentimes that this really delays important decisions. What if something happened unexpectedly? Then you are not prepared for that, right? But the good news is your members are looking to you for guidance. They want you to help them. And by simply gaining a little bit more knowledge around estate planning, you can really help them remove these barriers. Okay, so what does it actually look like in practice? There are three main ways people can create a will, and understanding these options are very crucial in guiding your members. So number one, holographic wills. These are handwritten, often seen as, in the movies, in a near-death situation, maybe during a war. It's easily misinterpreted and likely to be challenged in court. So we don't want to recommend this. Number two, lawyer drafted. This is ideal for those with complex estates, but expensive. Like I mentioned, it costs $3,000 to $5,000 per will. Online will is the third option, legally valid, simple and accessible, designed to serve up to 90% of your congregation who have a simple estate. With an online will solution, your members are guided. They just follow a step-by-step guide. It really takes them under 30 minutes. They can save their progress and log back in to continue, and they can update them as much as they need it. Yeah, so we'll show you what that looks like in a quick demo. Okay, so I've talked about the why, explore the why behind legacy giving. We want to show you what this looks like in action. So I'm excited to introduce David Metter, the executive director at 12 Stone Church, one of the largest, most influential church in Georgia, and he brings a strong vision around how estate planning can not only serve families, but also fund the long-term passion of the church. David, thank you so much for being here today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay. So, David, Mark and I have been talking about, unlocking more creative ways to give. And I mentioned that one of the most overlooked opportunity is legacy giving. So can you share what led you to realize that 12 Stone needs to go beyond weekly tithes or campaign-based giving, and why did legacy giving feel like an untapped channel of generosity to your church?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. It actually became part of a larger conversation. I have a technology background. I was in the business space, and then was asked a little less than 5 years ago by my church to come in and lead our legacy group, which is essentially a group of people who have the spiritual gift of giving. And just because I couldn't just put my technology hat down for too long, I started thinking about kind of our vision of giving. We were, as a church, really good, focused on tithes and offerings, but very specific in how we receive those through ACH and cash and check and kind of the normal things. But as I started to talk to our legacy team members and talk to other people in our congregation, I found that we had gaps in the way that they could give. And so, in just short order, we started thinking through, how do we receive stock, cryptocurrency, other forms of gift. We even came up with a roundup concept. And then we got to this legacy, the true legacy giving, and the will side. And I think the most interesting part of that was, as I had these conversations, nobody talked about it, even though my very first meeting with a legacy couple included a gift through their will. But as I talked to them, nobody really understood that they could, give a gift to their church through their will, or that anybody had ever really talked to them about it. So this was just really kind of lack of education. And what really hit me was, I was, you start thinking about these endowments that these local colleges, national colleges, university, even where our kids went, Liberty University, started doing some digging there. And I found that like a Liberty University has an endowment that exceeds $2 billion, but 15 years ago it was at $6 million. And so I looked to see how did they improve that over a 15-year period of time? And it came down to one thing. They talked about it. It was education. And so as we had this vision of giving, we said, look, if we educated our legacy team members, other people in our congregation, would that same type of thing happen?
Yeah, that's so encouraging how just a couple of conversations can spark this conversation, and from managing the now to equipping people to give beyond their lifetime. And I know that you recently introduced an estate planning tool, an online will solution to your congregation. How did that idea first come up? Was it feedback from your members, surveys, or something else that helped you see that this is the right timing to introduce that?
Well, funny enough, we did actually a survey, and we decided to do it in a very specific group within our church. We have a 50+ group, which has about 1,000 people within our congregation that participate, pretty actively within this 50+ group. And we did survey them, and it came back overwhelmingly that wills, because we talked about it, then we surveyed them, that it was something that they were certainly interested in.
Yeah, and I've seen some similar things happen in the charity space as well. Usually the conversation starts with just 1 or 2 donors who reach out to them and saying, hey, I have the intention to leave a portion of my asset to support your cause. And then the light bulb moment comes go off. Okay, so who these people want to give, how can we make it easier for them? And they start surveying their donors, and they find out they rate it as such an important thing on their list. And so they really start looking into, okay, how do I help my donors, people who are already supporting me, to make this easier for them, the next step, offering them that next step tool. But we all know legacy giving can be a sensitive topic. And for many people, I mentioned earlier, it feels like tied to end of life planning, which can feel heavy. I watched a video where you introduced this to your 50 plus group, and it felt really personal and purpose driven. Can you share how you approach this topic in a way that align with your church and doesn't feel transactional?
Yeah, we're fortunate because within this 50 plus group, which is a great beta test, right, for our whole congregation, that we were in a 10-week series with our founding senior pastor, and he was talking about heaven. And over this 10-week period, it was just obvious, great content. But we got to a point where he talked about leaving a legacy, and the two of us just had a 10-minute conversation on stage in front of our 50 plus group. And I shared with him some of the things that I just shared with you, unpacked him a little bit more around education, understanding, it's very biblical in the sense that we're not just supposed to take, for my wife and I, we have 6 kids. We're not just supposed to, cut up our will 6 different ways. We're supposed to do the same things that we do to honor God in our life at the same time that we do, at our death. But the way that we were able to deliver it in the conversation, I think really resonated, so much so that we had this 10-minute conversation, and we presented that we were going to give free wills out to this group as a beta test. And if they chose to give a gift to 12 Stone, they could. They chose not to. That was okay. The will was still going to be a free process. And from that 10-minute conversation, we were able to generate millions in gifts to our church. And so we're excited that we're going to continue that conversation beyond just the 10-week Heaven series. We're not only going to roll it out to our 50 plus group in completion, but we'll take it to our legacy team and then eventually to our congregation.
Can I jump in and highlight a question, David? So how long ago did you guys at 12 Stone release this, and how much money did you guys raise in how amount of time through this opportunity?
Yeah, we won't share the second part of the question because we just don't do that as a church. But what I can tell you, because I gave you a general answer, we did this 5 weeks ago. And so I think, again, it came down to a 10-minute conversation that generated, I think, a very positive outcome. And we know based on that, just on the testing from the survey to the education to the call to action, and if we expand this out and continuously, just like anything, you do well, within your church. If you over communicate it becomes, it certainly, will stick. And we know that if we do this right, I think we'll see this. And we may not have the crazy outcomes that, I shared with Liberty University, but I think that there is the opportunity for us to really do something that's quite unique in the church space. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible. It just really shows that people are ready. They just need to be invited to take an action. And even they don't have the capacity to leave something in their will, you're still helping them protect their family and loved ones, right? So I believe everything we talked about is what a lot of churches are looking for, that stability and sustainability for the next generation. So thank you so much for casting that vision so clearly.
Yeah, thank you.
Us. Yeah, this is such a valuable perspective for everyone. And please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We'll circle back to answer them a bit later. Thank you so much, David, for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll pass on to Mark. You have a little, a short demo that you want to show everyone?
Yeah, well, we want to offer just different ways that of solutions that could be opportunities for you all around the big idea of stewarding for the long term. And I do think, Tracy, actually what would be really best way to capitalize in this time is while we're fresh on this subject around wills, why don't you show how Will Fora can be an opportunity on the horizon for churches to consider stewarding for the long term first?
Yeah, for sure. So let me just pull up my screen here. Give me 1 second.
And like Tracy said, we're going to be doing some question and answer around any of these subjects. So please don't hesitate to pop them in, even as we're going through the demo also.
Yeah. I'll quickly show you how 12 Stone Church has incorporated a compelling call to action right on their other ways to give page. So if you have a page like this, they have communicated stock, crypto, and donor advised funds. And here, this is where they have a section about wills and bequests. You can click to learn more or create your will. So once you have that button or hyperlink on your website, it really encourages your members to start there. And this is their customized page. It's very simple and straightforward. You can have additional messaging here if you want to communicate with more with your members and contact information. And they have a compelling call to action to start my will now. So in the past, if you haven't having this conversation about estate planning with your members, if you don't offer them that next step to close that gap, they still don't know where to start. And maybe they will go visit a lawyer to see if they can get help there, but they turn out to be more maybe allergic to lawyer fees or too time consuming. That's what really the inertia starts. So with this, it's kind of like, I can start now. I can get this figured out at home, at the convenience of home, and also under 30 minutes. Okay, so all someone needs to do is click Start My Will, and they will be guided to create an account and follow our step-by-step guide. They'll enter some basic information like where they live, their marital status, if they have any children, pets, all those details, and they will move on to naming their beneficiaries, guardians for their children, and executors. So I won't go through every step today, but I do want to show you their last will and testament. Let me pull that up real quick. What that will looks like after they have completed all the steps, enter all their information, wishes, and what that could look like. So and this might be different in every state. I think we're fully operational in Georgia right now, and they do have to print it out and have it signed using wet ink in front of 2 witnesses. This is the first instruction page where we have a very detailed information on how to make the will legally binding. So review carefully. You want to review all your entries, and sign and witness is a very important part. You are making a legally binding will, so you don't have to take it to the lawyer to get notarized. That's the beauty of an online will. You don't have to go see a lawyer. You can make this happen legally and valid at home. Sign and witness, you must sign an initial document in front of 2 witnesses. In Georgia, they have to be at least 14 years old. In some other states, that will be maybe 18. So that would be a little bit different for each state. And based on your input during the will creation process, we actually call out those people who cannot serve at as witnesses. And this is quite important because you want to find someone who is non-beneficiary. If you already name them as your beneficiary, they can't serve as witnesses. They won't be eligible. Store safely. You want to store your documents in a safe place, and you also want to ensure a family member or your executors to know where to look for this piece of document, because what a lot of the mistakes people make is they think my will is my business. If they create this piece, nobody knows about it, and if they pass, it will be treated as they never had a will. So it will undo all the efforts, right? So this is also very important to talk about if you have these conversations. And then update it as needed. A lot of this is also always neglected as well. People will have a will for 10 years, 15 years, and never update it. Maybe they want to support a new church, or they join a new church and want to support them. Maybe they want to support a cause, an animal cause, but because they perceive it as so time consuming and costly, they don't want to go back and update those wishes. And with online will solution, they can log back in and update that as well. So this is what the will look like. And maybe I'll go into what that looks like. So it really covers and serves up to 90% of your congregation. If someone has simple estate, they can use an online will provider. They have the family section, also special gifts if they want to leave unique gifts, beneficiaries if they want to support their church, and also trust for minor children, pet legacy we have, and they can also indicate.
Gotta love the pet legacy.
Yeah. That's actually our most beloved feature. Like I get inquiries all the time. Can I add my pet? I have 2 cats. Can I leave them some fun, some gift for those who are taking care of me, taking care of the cat? So we have that covered as well. So this is very comprehensive. I hope this gives you a lot of insight into what a will estate planning look like for your members.
That's incredible. And thank you for sharing. There's obviously, you're just barely scratching the surface of what Will4a through Overflow can help serve in the church space. And we'll go over some more detailed questions in a bit. I also just wanted to quickly share an opportunity around the idea of stewarding for the long term. I think it's really easy to think about what's right in front of us. And many of us, or some of you, have fundraising events, and maybe sometimes your budget's dependent on, and we need to get a large bailout gift at the end of the year. We created at Overflow something called Generosity University. It's an 8-week course. And what it provides for the church is ability to focus on the everyday average giver, or frankly, the everyday average individual, and many of them that aren't giving. And we address those 3 areas that we talked about and how to create a culture of generosity. And what we do that through is by teaching them both generosity literacy and biblical literacy through video content, interactive worksheets and activities. And then we also have little quizzes at the end to make sure people are taking it. We've seen explosive growth, not just in giving, but also in the number of new givers coming. One church started with 30 different people going through Generosity University. It's just a small class. Of those 30 people that came, 9 started giving. So almost a third that came started giving who weren't giving before, just by basically unlocking their finances through teaching them financial literacy, budget, debt, and also generosity literacy through tithe and living with a vision for your money. I'll show you real briefly what the course looks like, and we can set up some more time later to answer questions or talk through more if it's something that can help serve your church. But let me pop into, we'll go, you know what? Let's just not do that because it's on one of my tabs. But I'm happy to talk through more of our subject matters and different ways that we can help unlock generosity. Again, let's focus on stewarding for the long term, not just by, we got 5% of givers that are traditionally covering majority of our budget. Let's build a bench of incredible givers that are giving $10, $50, $100. But you think about the more people that are giving at that rate, it's going to unlock your budget and unlock the vision that God's put in your heart. So why don't we jump into some of the questions? I see a few that are over here. Gabriel asked for you, Tracy.
Oh yeah.
About Will Forward and how it's offered.
Yeah, Gabriel, are you? Can I ask if where you're located? Are you in Atlanta or New York and New Jersey? Any of these states? And it is offered. Okay, it is offered through Overflow. We are actually we launch our service in Georgia right now, and in the next 2 months we are expanding in New York, and we'll launch our service in New York and New Jersey. And if you're interested in learning more, please send me an email. And we are rolling out our service based on to the area that has the most interest. So I definitely want to connect with you. And David, is there a link showing which states in the US that will force services? Yeah, so right now in Georgia, but we are launching our service in New York and New Jersey. Again, let me know where you're located so I can gather all these interests and roll out the service in your state next.
And to what Tracy's saying is, this is kind of like a survey where we can understand where more interest is at. So please share with us what states you'd like to be working with, and that's going to help us prioritize which states we launch Will for in sooner and quicker. So David, where is your nonprofit primarily based, or is it really obviously just 40 plus states? As we wait. And if you have any other questions in general about best practices on stewarding for the long term, please base them. You're based in California, so big donor bases in California, Dallas, and Minneapolis. That's great.
Yeah, I'll write that down.
A few other things that I want to highlight also is the example that David talked about with an endowment in universities. We're beginning to see that there are banks even that look at committed money as something that gives them a little bit more friendly approval with, hey, this is money that's committed to this organization, and if we're going to loan money to them. So there's multiple other strengths of having this committed money that leads to lending favor and many other opportunities that are beneficial. Jordan put in here, what's the cost to implement Wolfora?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have different plans. For starter plan, if you want to just test it out, like in a beta, like David mentioned with their 50 plus group, we offer a starter plan which you can buy a batch of wills at a discounted price. So a will, an online will out there, it retails at around $150 to $200. If you buy 10 wills, it will be at a discount, $90 per will, and it goes on. 25 wills will give you a greater discount. And if you want to have unlimited access amount of wills to offer that to your congregation, that would be $3,000. And then we also have another package you will have access to a dashboard that gives you real-time insight into the donor information, so you can contact them, the gift details, so you have visibility into your future income. So if you're interested, please email me. I can send you the pricing details and we can go from there.
Chris first asked about the cost to implement Generosity University. It's also account-based. And we do, which we're going to showcase at the end here. If you are interested and you book a demo to even talk, it doesn't mean there's a rush for you to move forward, but we're also offering for the people on the webinar, or this is a workshop. We're getting rid of the word webinar. Workshop we're offering 25% off, but it is account based. So the to start off, the packages look like $100 per account. But then when you add more accounts, they go down per account. So it really bases on how many accounts. If you want to do it through small groups, you need accounts for your facilitators. We also offer a facilitator's guide that's robust, that's going to help you. There's a lot of churches that have used it in a classroom setting. One church has used it with their homeless shelter, and they're taking single moms through Generosity University, and they actually have invested money back into the single moms with their getting their emergency fund started. So there's really multiple ways to, and it's really custom based on the church. David, second, you asked about what were the stats from at the beginning. Many of them came through Barna's surveys. They also came through a few other generosity-based research portals that I'd be happy to share with. But they've come through research organizations that have spent a lot of time working on what are trends happening in the church. And those were based on about 6 months ago. So any of what we're saying like in the past 12 months should be more like 18 months ago. So they're still relevant, but those stats came out about 6 months ago. Chris, speaking to getting started with a small group, you can just message me. Tracy, if you want to pop up the last one too, talking about just ways we can get connected from here.
Yeah, I asked our team to drop our, give me 1 second, our contact information in the chat as well. Here is our contact information here. So if you're interested in Generosity University, you can email Mark. If you're interested in Overflow, our online will solution, please email me. We would love for you to reach out and connect with you.
And also, if there's any more questions about any, that's why we're here. So we're happy to cover any of those. But we're so grateful that you came. Looks like Michigan and California are coming in strong here. Thank you, Wesley. And again, really appreciate you all coming from different states, different areas, spending almost an hour of your time on a Thursday with us. It means the world. And we'd be really grateful to make ourselves available for any more questions. We'll also be sharing the content that we shared today, so you can review it and look over and use it any way you want within your church and organization. And Tracy, is there anything else you want to wrap up with?
No, I don't think so. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. If you have any, estate planning questions, if you want to guide your members through having that initial conversation, please feel free to email to me. I am really excited or passionate about this. I helped a lot of charities, national charities as well, to start this conversation, so I can give you the appropriate language and verbiage. So if you want that, I'd love to connect with you. Thank you so much.
It's a privilege. We will stay in touch, and thank you again for taking time out of your day and joining us.